Tonight, let us travel softly into the quiet streets and narrow lanes of Victorian Britain. The day has almost ended. A pale evening sky hangs above rows of brick houses. Thin clouds drift slowly over rooftops darkened by coal smoke. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell sounds across the cool air. Its gentle tone spreads through the streets and fades into the night. Many adults are returning home from long hours of labor. Shop doors are closing. Factory whistles have already fallen silent. Horses pull their final carts through muddy roads. Lamps begin to glow behind small windows. Inside these homes, children are settling into another ordinary evening. Some sit beside weak fires. Some help wash dishes. Some finish small sewing tasks before bed. Others are already asleep, exhausted from the day. When many people imagine childhood, they often picture freedom, games, and endless afternoons of play. Yet for countless Victorian children, life was something quite different. Childhood existed, certainly. There was laughter. There were toys. There were moments of wonder. But there was also work. There was responsibility. There was expectation. Many children learned very early that life required patience and effort. From their earliest years, they became part of the daily rhythm of family survival. Tonight we will move quietly through their world. We will walk beside them through city streets and country villages. We will sit beside kitchen fires. We will wake before dawn. We will listen to factory sounds and schoolroom whispers. And as the hours pass, we may begin to understand how so many Victorian children accepted lives that modern people might find difficult. Not because they lacked imagination. Not because they lacked dreams. But because the world around them taught certain lessons every day. The Victorian age stretched across much of the 19th century during the reign of Queen Victoria. It was a time of great change. Railways crossed the countryside. Factories grew larger. Cities expanded rapidly. New inventions appeared year after year. Yet beneath these changes lived millions of ordinary families whose daily concerns remained simple and familiar. Food. Rent. Work. Warmth. Health. For many children, these concerns were part of life from the beginning. A child born into a working family often shared one room with parents and brothers and sisters. The room might be crowded. Beds were sometimes shared. Blankets could be thin during winter. Privacy was rare. Yet to the child growing up there, such conditions often seemed normal. Human beings become accustomed to the world they know. A small boy lying beside his brothers under a heavy wool blanket did not compare his life to distant possibilities. He compared it to yesterday. And yesterday looked much the same. Outside the window, morning would arrive slowly. Before sunrise, the first sounds of movement began. Footsteps echoed in narrow streets. Doors opened. Coal was delivered. Carts rolled over rough stones. Adults prepared for work. Children often woke with them. The family day moved together. In wealthier homes, childhood could be very different. There might be servants. Private tutors. Large gardens. Rooms filled with books. Yet wealthy children were often expected to follow strict rules of behavior. They learned discipline, manners, and social expectations from an early age. Even comfort came with structure. Victorian society placed enormous value on duty. Adults spoke often about hard work, respectability, and self-control. Children absorbed these ideas constantly. They heard them at home, at school, in church, in newspapers, in stories. Again and again, the message appeared. Life involved responsibility. A good person accepted that responsibility. For working-class children, this lesson arrived not only through words but through daily experience. Imagine a small house before dawn. The fire has been relit. The room smells faintly of coal smoke and yesterday's cooking. A mother moves quietly across worn floorboards. She prepares breakfast using simple ingredients. Perhaps bread. Perhaps porridge. Perhaps tea. The meal is modest. Nothing is wasted. A young girl rubs sleep from her eyes and helps set the table. She may only be 8 or 9 years old. Yet she already understands certain household tasks. Her family needs many hands. Everyone contributes where they can. Outside, rain taps softly against the window. The street remains dark. Soon adults will leave for factories, workshops, docks, mines, and markets. The child watches this routine unfold every day. Responsibility becomes familiar. Not dramatic. Not unusual. Simply part of life. Many Victorian children entered work surprisingly young. Laws gradually improved during the century, limiting child labor and increasing educational opportunities. But change came slowly. For many years, children worked in factories, mills, farms, mines, shops, and homes. The work could be tiring. The hours could be long. Yet children often viewed it as a natural step into adulthood. Their parents had worked. Their older siblings worked. Neighbors worked. The expectation surrounded them. In industrial towns, factory buildings dominated the landscape. Tall chimneys rose above rows of houses. Smoke drifted into the sky. The steady hum of machinery filled the air. Children walking to work each morning passed familiar streets lined with workers heading in the same direction. The factory became part of the rhythm of life. Not an extraordinary place. Just another destination in the daily routine. Many children began as helpers. Their small hands could perform tasks adults found difficult. They cleaned machines, carried materials, sorted products, ran errands. The work demanded attention. Mistakes could bring consequences. So children learned concentration early. They learned punctuality. They learned endurance. Yet life was never entirely work. Even the busiest child found moments between responsibilities. A game in an alleyway. A race across an empty field. A conversation with friends. A treasured marble. A simple doll. Children remained children. They discovered joy whenever opportunities appeared. That may be one reason difficult lives often felt bearable. Hardship rarely occupied every minute. Small pleasures carried surprising importance. A warm meal. A holiday celebration. A sunny afternoon. A story told beside the fire. Such moments shone brightly against ordinary routines. As evening deepened across Victorian towns, many families gathered in limited space. Gas lamps flickered. Shadows danced softly across walls. Parents discussed work. Children listened. Sometimes they sewed clothing. Sometimes they repaired household items. Sometimes they simply rested. The day had consumed much of their energy. In these quiet hours, children learned another lesson. Family survival depended upon cooperation. No single person carried the entire burden. Instead, responsibilities spread across parents, grandparents, older children, and younger children alike. Everyone contributed according to ability. This understanding shaped attitudes toward hardship. Difficult circumstances became something shared rather than faced alone. Across the countryside, life moved at a different pace. Victorian villages often remained deeply connected to seasonal rhythms. Children there learned lessons from fields rather than factories. The day followed the movement of sunlight. The weather mattered enormously. Rain, wind, frost, heat. Each affected family routines. A farm child might wake early to help feed animals. Perhaps chickens scratched in the yard. Perhaps cows waited in nearby fields. Tasks varied throughout the year. Harvest seasons brought intense activity. Winter offered quieter moments. Yet responsibility remained constant. The child understood that animals required care every day. Nature did not pause for comfort. This acceptance of necessity became another part of growing up. Many Victorian children encountered illness more frequently than modern children. Medical knowledge was limited. Disease spread more easily. Families sometimes experienced loss that today might be prevented. Children grew up aware that life contained uncertainty. Yet communities developed ways of coping. Neighbors helped neighbors. Religious faith provided comfort. Family bonds remained strong. People carried on because carrying on was necessary. For a child observing adults, resilience became normal. Not heroic. Simply expected. Schools gradually became more common throughout the Victorian era. For some children, school offered opportunities previous generations had never known. Learning to read opened entire worlds. Books introduced distant places and unfamiliar ideas. Maps revealed lands beyond local streets and fields. Education created possibilities. Yet school itself often reflected Victorian values. Discipline mattered greatly. Teachers expected obedience. Lessons emphasized effort and persistence. Children sat at wooden desks. They practiced handwriting carefully. They memorized facts. They learned rules. The classroom reinforced messages already present throughout society. Work hard. Be respectful. Fulfill your duties. Accept challenges without complaint. These lessons appeared repeatedly in many forms. Over time they became woven into daily life. As darkness settles fully across the Victorian landscape, lamps glow in windows one by one. Rain has stopped. The streets grow quieter. Most families prepare for sleep. Children climb into beds. Some share mattresses with brothers and sisters. Some sleep beneath patched blankets. Some drift off quickly after long days. Others listen to sounds beyond the walls. A horse passing outside. Footsteps fading into the distance. The crackle of a fire. The soft breathing of family members nearby. Their world is not perfect. It contains discomfort, fatigue, limitations. Yet it also contains familiarity, routine, belonging, purpose. Children often accepted difficult lives because those lives formed the entire landscape of their experience. The expectations surrounding them felt natural. The adults they loved followed similar paths. Neighbors faced similar challenges. Communities shared similar routines. Acceptance grew quietly from that environment. Not all children were content. Not all children welcomed hardship. Many wished for easier circumstances. Many struggled. Many suffered. Yet countless others learned to move through daily responsibilities with remarkable patience. They adapted because adaptation is one of humanity's oldest skills. And so, beneath the coal-smudged skies of Victorian Britain, another evening settles gently into silence. Fires burn lower. Voices grow softer. The streets empty. Children close tired eyes. Tomorrow will bring another ordinary day. Another morning bell. Another walk through familiar streets. Another set of tasks waiting patiently with the dawn. And as sleep arrives, the vast Victorian world continues its slow and steady rhythm, carrying millions of children quietly forward through lives shaped by duty, family, work, and the simple determination to meet each new day as it comes. Night still rests softly over the Victorian world. The last lamps burn quietly behind curtains. A faint orange glow slips through cracks in shutters and settles across narrow streets. Most homes are silent now. The sounds of conversation have faded. Even the horses seem still. Inside crowded houses, children sleep closely together. A small hand rests on a folded blanket. A worn shoe waits beside a bed. A patched coat hangs from a nail driven into an old wooden wall. The room is simple. Yet for the children sleeping there, it is home. Many Victorian children grew up surrounded by things that had already lived long lives. A coat might once have belonged to an older brother. A blanket may have passed through several children before reaching its newest owner. Nothing was wasted if it could still serve a purpose. A child learned this lesson early. Objects mattered. Food mattered. Money mattered. Time mattered. Every item inside the house carried value because replacing it could be difficult. As the night slowly passes, the first signs of morning begin to appear. The sky lightens almost imperceptibly. A pale gray line emerges above distant rooftops. Somewhere a rooster calls. Elsewhere a factory bell sounds through cool air. The day is beginning again. A young boy opens his eyes. For a moment he remains still beneath the blankets. The room feels cold. Winter mornings can be especially difficult. Frost sometimes gathers along the edges of windows. Breath becomes visible in the air. Eventually he rises. There is little choice. The household must wake. The family follows its familiar routine. A parent stirs the fire. A kettle is placed nearby. Simple breakfast preparations begin. The smell of bread may fill the room. Perhaps there is porridge. Perhaps tea. Perhaps only enough food to satisfy immediate hunger. The meal is not large. Many working families lived carefully from one week to the next. Yet breakfast remains important. It provides strength for the hours ahead. Children sit beside adults at rough tables. Conversation is often brief. Everyone feels the pull of approaching responsibilities. Soon coats are buttoned. Scarves are tied. Doors open. The cold morning air rushes inside. Then the family steps into the day. The streets of industrial towns can be busy even before sunrise. Workers move steadily through the half-light. Their footsteps echo across stone roads. Children walk among them. Some travel with parents. Others journey alongside brothers, sisters, or friends. The same routes are followed day after day. Certain buildings become familiar landmarks. A bakery releasing warm scents into the morning air. A church standing quietly between rows of houses. A public pump where water is collected. A narrow alley leading toward workshops and factories. The child knows each turn. Each doorway. Each corner. The city becomes a map carried inside memory. Many Victorian children developed strong awareness of their surroundings because daily routines rarely changed. The same paths were traveled repeatedly. The same faces appeared. The same sounds greeted each morning. This consistency offered a strange kind of comfort. Life could be difficult. but it was also predictable. Predictability helps people endure hardship. When tomorrow resembles today, uncertainty loses some of its power. As sunlight gradually spreads across the city, workshops begin to fill. In one building, young apprentices learn trades from experienced craftsmen. A boy may spend years studying a single skill. Perhaps he learns shoemaking. Perhaps carpentry. Perhaps metalworking. The process requires patience. Mistakes are corrected. Techniques are repeated again and again. The work can feel slow. Yet over time small improvements appear. Hands become steadier. Movements become more efficient. Confidence grows quietly. Many Victorian children accepted long apprenticeships because mastery itself held value. Learning a trade offered hope for future stability. The daily effort seemed meaningful. Elsewhere, young girls assist with domestic labor. Some help mothers inside family homes. Others work as servants in larger households. Victorian service involved countless small tasks. Beds needed making. Floors needed sweeping. Clothing required washing and mending. Meals required preparation. Each duty appeared ordinary. Yet together they filled entire days. A young servant might rise before most of the household. She could spend hours preparing spaces that others would barely notice. Fresh water carried upstairs. Ashes removed from fireplaces. Furniture dusted. Candles replaced. The work often remained invisible. Yet without it, daily life would quickly become uncomfortable. Children learned that much of life depended upon tasks that received little attention. This understanding encouraged humility. Not every important contribution attracted praise. Sometimes duty simply required doing what needed to be done. By mid-morning, cities hum with activity. Factory machinery turns steadily. Shopkeepers arrange goods. Street vendors call out their offerings. Wagons move through crowded roads. The world feels busy. Yet inside this movement, children often find brief moments of observation. A girl pauses while carrying supplies. She notices sunlight reflecting from wet cobblestones. A boy delivering packages watches pigeons gather near a market square. Another child glimpses clouds drifting between chimney tops. These moments are small. They last only seconds. Yet they break the rhythm of labor. Human beings naturally seek beauty wherever it appears. Victorian children were no different. The world offered small gifts even during demanding days. Throughout the 19th century, religion shaped many aspects of daily life. Churches stood at the center of countless communities. Children attended services. They memorized lessons. They listened to sermons discussing morality, kindness, patience, and duty. Whether rich or poor, many Victorian families viewed faith as a source of structure and comfort. Difficult circumstances often seemed easier to accept when connected to larger spiritual beliefs. Children heard stories emphasizing perseverance. They learned that suffering could be endured. They learned that character developed through challenge. These ideas became woven into everyday thinking. On Sundays, routines changed. Factories grew quieter. Shops closed. Families dressed in cleaner clothing if possible. Church bells rang across towns and villages. For many children, Sunday felt different from the rest of the week. There was still discipline. There were still expectations. Yet the pace softened. The day created space for reflection and family time. Some children walked through parks. Others visited relatives. Some remained home reading religious texts or listening to stories. The break from ordinary labor offered valuable rest. As months passed into years, Victorian children gradually grew into larger responsibilities. The process happened so slowly that it often went unnoticed. A task once considered difficult became ordinary. A responsibility once carried by an older sibling shifted to younger shoulders. Childhood blended gradually into adulthood. There was rarely a single moment marking the change. Instead, growth occurred through repetition, through routine, through countless ordinary days. This gradual transition helped many children accept increasing expectations. Life unfolded one step at a time. Looking back, the journey appears large. Living through it, the journey felt manageable because each day demanded only its own effort. During winter, conditions could become especially challenging. Coal fires struggled against freezing temperatures. Roads turned muddy. Fog settled heavily over cities. Short daylight hours compressed work into dim mornings and dark evenings. Children walked through cold air with red cheeks and numb fingers. Yet winter also brought unique comforts. Families gathered closer to sources of warmth. Stories were shared beside fires. Hot meals felt especially satisfying. The contrast between cold outdoors and warm indoor spaces created powerful memories. Even difficult seasons contained moments of tenderness. Summer offered different experiences. Longer daylight hours stretched across the landscape. Streets remained active later into the evening. In rural areas, fields shimmered beneath sunlight. Harvest work increased. Children spent more time outdoors. Warm weather sometimes transformed ordinary spaces. Empty lots became playgrounds. Riverbanks attracted gatherings. Open fields invited exploration. Though responsibilities remained, summer occasionally provided small feelings of freedom. Across Britain, children encountered vast differences in wealth. Some passed elegant homes with polished windows and decorative gardens. Others lived in crowded neighborhoods where space remained scarce. Victorian society displayed these contrasts openly. Children noticed them. Yet acceptance often emerged not from ignoring inequality but from focusing on immediate realities. Most families concentrated on their own daily needs. Food for today. Rent for next week. Work for tomorrow. Practical concerns occupied attention. Grand social questions seemed distant compared to immediate responsibilities. In schools, teachers sometimes asked children to copy lines repeatedly onto slates. Neat handwriting mattered. Precision mattered. Order mattered. The exercise could seem tedious. Yet it reflected broader Victorian values. Patience. Self-control. Persistence. These qualities were admired throughout society. Children encountered them everywhere. At home. At work. At school. At church. Repetition reinforced expectations until they felt natural. By evening, exhaustion begins to settle over the city once again. Workers leave factories. Apprentices finish lessons. Servants complete final chores. Families return home. Smoke rises from chimneys. Supper preparations begin. Children gather around tables or fireplaces. The atmosphere changes. The demands of the day slowly loosen their grip. Some children read if books are available. Others sew. Others simply sit quietly. Fatigue encourages stillness. Outside, darkness returns. Gas lamps flicker along streets. Their light reflects softly across damp stones. The city grows calmer. Inside homes, Parents sometimes tell stories from their own childhoods. Children listen closely. Family history passes from one generation to the next. Tales of difficult winters. Hard-earned successes. Familiar neighbors. Long-gone relatives. Such stories help children place themselves within larger family journeys. They learn that previous generations also faced challenges. Endurance becomes part of identity. A child who hears these stories may come to see hardship not as unusual but as expected. Something others endured before. Something they too can endure. And so another day settles gently into memory. The clocks continue ticking. Fires burn lower. Blankets are pulled close. Outside, the Victorian world remains vast and busy. Yet inside countless small homes, children drift toward sleep. Tomorrow will arrive soon enough. Another morning. Another routine. Another collection of ordinary moments. The days may seem simple when viewed from afar. Yet within them lie the quiet lessons that shaped generations of Victorian children. Lessons of patience. Of responsibility. Of family. Of adapting to circumstances that could not easily be changed. And beneath the soft glow of fading lamps, those lessons continue their slow work, settling gently into young hearts as the city slips once more into silence. The night settles deeper now across Victorian Britain. Clouds drift quietly above sleeping towns. Chimneys stand dark against the sky. Along narrow streets, pools of lamplight rest upon damp stones. A distant clock marks another hour, and then silence returns. Most homes are asleep. Behind brick walls and thin curtains, children lie beneath blankets worn smooth by years of use. Some sleep soundly after long days of work and study. Others drift slowly between dreams and wakefulness, listening to the familiar sounds of home. A fire shifts softly in the grate. Floorboards creak as a parent moves through the room. Wind brushes gently against the window. These sounds become part of childhood. They are heard so often that they feel comforting. Outside, the world may be large and uncertain, but inside these small rooms there is familiarity. And familiarity can bring peace. As the darkest hours pass, the city waits for morning. The air grows colder. The streets empty completely. Even the factories seem to rest. Yet beneath the quiet surface, another day is already approaching. Victorian children understand this rhythm well. Life moves in cycles. Work follows rest. Morning follows night. One season follows another. The pattern rarely changes. Perhaps that is one reason many accepted difficult circumstances. Routine creates stability. Even when life is hard, familiar patterns offer something steady to hold onto. Soon the first traces of dawn appear. The sky lightens slowly behind rooftops and church towers. Mist hangs over rivers and canals. Birds begin their morning songs. In countless homes, children wake before the sun has fully risen. A young girl opens her eyes. The room is cool. She pulls a blanket around her shoulders before climbing carefully from bed. Her younger sister still sleeps nearby. Their mother is already awake. The fire needs attention. Water must be heated. Breakfast must be prepared. Without speaking, the girl begins helping. This is not unusual. She has done it many times before. Her hands know exactly where everything belongs. The kettle. The cups. The bread. The small household routines have become second nature. Many Victorian children gained practical skills long before reaching adulthood. They learned through observation, through repetition, through necessity. Adults often had little time for lengthy instruction. Instead, children watched carefully. They copied what they saw. Gradually they became capable helpers. A boy might learn how to repair a broken latch. A girl might learn how to mend clothing. Another child might become skilled at carrying messages through crowded streets. Knowledge passed quietly from one generation to another. Not through formal lessons, but through everyday life. As the morning continues, families gather briefly around breakfast. The meal may be simple. Bread spread with dripping. Porridge steaming in bowls. Tea poured carefully into cups. The food is modest, but it provides energy for the hours ahead. Conversation remains gentle and practical. There is little time for long discussions. Work waits. School waits. Responsibilities wait. Soon coats are collected. Scarves are wrapped tightly against the cold. Doors open. The day begins. In London, streets gradually fill with movement. The city is enormous. Its population continues to grow throughout the Victorian age. People arrive from villages and towns seeking opportunities. New neighborhoods appear. Old neighborhoods become more crowded. Children growing up in such places witness constant activity. Street sellers arrange goods upon carts. Horse-drawn wagons rattle over stones. Chimney smoke rises into pale skies. Everywhere there is motion. Yet amid the crowds, individual lives remain surprisingly small. A child often knows only a handful of streets well. The local bakery. The nearby church. The school. The corner shop. These familiar places form the center of daily existence. Beyond them lies a much larger world, mostly unseen. Newspapers occasionally bring news from distant places. Travelers share stories of faraway lands. Maps hang on classroom walls. Yet for many children, life remains closely connected to home and neighborhood. Their concerns are immediate. Today's work. Today's meal. Today's weather. The future arrives slowly, one ordinary day at a time. In rural villages, mornings unfold differently. The pace feels gentler. Fields stretch toward the horizon. Hedges divide winding roads. Stone cottages rest beside small gardens. Children here often wake to natural sounds. Birds calling from trees. Livestock stirring nearby. Wind moving through tall grass. The countryside follows ancient rhythms older than factories and railways. Seasons guide daily life. Spring brings planting. Summer encourages growth. Autumn arrives with harvest. Winter demands patience. Children learn these cycles through experience. They watch seeds disappear into soil. They watch crops emerge. They watch fields change color beneath shifting sunlight. The land becomes a teacher. It teaches persistence. It teaches waiting. It teaches acceptance. Not every seed grows. Not every season is perfect. Yet life continues. Such lessons shape character quietly over many years. During the Victorian period, many children lived in large families. Brothers and sisters shared rooms, meals, chores, and responsibilities. This closeness created strong bonds. It could also create occasional disagreements. Yet cooperation remained necessary. A crowded household required teamwork. Older children often cared for younger ones. They tied shoes, helped with washing, told stories, offered comfort after bad dreams. In many ways, children helped raise one another. This responsibility encouraged maturity. A 10-year-old caring for younger siblings learned patience quickly. A 12-year-old trusted with household duties gained confidence. Family life became a place where practical skills developed naturally. Sometimes children found opportunities for play in unexpected places. An empty yard. A quiet lane. A patch of grass near a river. The games themselves were often simple. A ball. A hoop. A skipping rope. A handful of marbles. Expensive toys remained beyond reach for many families. Yet imagination required little money. Children transformed ordinary spaces into worlds of adventure. For a short time, work and responsibilities faded into the background. Laughter filled the air. Feet raced across uneven ground. Friendships strengthened. These moments mattered deeply. They provided balance. Life could not consist entirely of labor. Children naturally sought joy wherever it could be found. Even brief periods of play helped lighten demanding routines. During rainy days, outdoor activities became difficult. Water collected in streets. Mud covered pathways. Gray clouds lingered overhead. Families spent more time indoors. Houses felt smaller when everyone remained inside. Yet rainy days carried their own atmosphere. The sound of drops against windows. The warmth of a fire. The smell of cooking. The quiet comfort of being sheltered from the weather. Children often sat close together. Some listened to stories. Some practiced reading. Others watched adults work. Such moments created memories that lasted long after childhood ended. Victorian society placed considerable importance on respectability. It was a word heard frequently. Adults spoke about proper behavior, proper appearance, proper conduct. Children absorbed these expectations from an early age. They learned when to speak and when to remain silent. They learned how to greet elders politely. They learned how to behave in public places. These lessons formed part of daily life. Sometimes the rules felt restrictive. Yet they also provided structure. Expectations were clearly understood. Children knew what was required of them. Knowing the rules can make the world feel more predictable. Predictability often brings a sense of security. As children grew older, they gradually became more aware of adult concerns. They overheard conversations about wages, rent, employment, illness, family finances. Working-class children especially understood that money could be scarce. A lost job might affect everyone in the household. An illness could create difficulties for weeks. Such realities encouraged practical thinking. Many children learned to value stability because they witnessed how easily stability could be disrupted. Yet alongside hardship existed remarkable resilience. Families adapted. Neighbors assisted one another. Communities developed informal networks of support. A borrowed tool. A shared meal. Help caring for children. Advice offered during difficult times. These acts of kindness rarely appeared in newspapers. Yet they formed an important part of everyday life. Children observed them constantly. They learned that people often depended upon one another. Human connection softened many hardships. Evening arrives once more. Shadows lengthen across streets and fields. Workers begin returning home. The pace of the day slows. Windows glow with warm light. Smoke curls upward from chimneys. The scent of supper drifts through neighborhoods. Families gather again after hours spent apart. There is relief in returning home. Relief in familiar faces. Relief in familiar routines. A child removes worn boots. Another hangs up a coat. Someone stirs a pot over the fire. Someone else sets the table. The household settles into its evening rhythm. During these hours, exhaustion often mingles with contentment. The day may have been demanding, yet it has been completed. Responsibilities have been met. Tomorrow can wait until morning. Outside, darkness gradually spreads. The stars appear above rooftops and countryside alike. Their light shines upon rich neighborhoods and poor ones without distinction. Children gaze upward through windows or doorways. For a moment, daily concerns seem distant. The sky feels vast, calm, endless. Then bedtime approaches. Candles are extinguished one by one. Blankets are arranged. Final conversations fade. The house grows quiet. A child closes tired eyes. Another turns toward the wall and drifts quickly into sleep. The world continues beyond their dreams. Factories stand waiting for morning. Schools wait. Farms wait. Streets wait. Yet for now, all remains still. And as another Victorian night settles gently over the land, countless children rest beneath its peaceful darkness, carrying within them the habits, responsibilities, hopes, and quiet endurance that have slowly become part of who they are. The hours pass softly. The wind moves gently through narrow streets. The fires burn lower. And somewhere beyond the sleeping rooftops, a new dawn is already beginning its slow approach. The first light of another morning arrives almost unnoticed. A faint silver glow spreads across the horizon. Rooftops emerge slowly from darkness. Chimneys, church spires, and rows of brick houses take shape beneath the growing daylight. The Victorian world awakens once again. In small cottages and crowded city homes, children begin to stir beneath blankets that have kept them warm through the night. The transition from sleep to wakefulness is gentle. A parent moves quietly through the room. A kettle is placed near the fire. Wood crackles softly. Some children remain asleep for a few moments longer, wrapped in dreams and warmth. But the day is waiting. It always is. Across much of Victorian Britain, life follows a steady rhythm that rarely pauses. The seasons change. The weather shifts. Families move from one home to another. Yet responsibilities continue. Children grow up surrounded by this understanding. The work of life does not stop simply because one feels tired. So each morning begins again. A young boy sits up and rubs his eyes. Outside the window, rain has fallen during the night. The street below glistens in the pale light. Water gathers in small puddles between uneven stones. The air feels cool and damp. He dresses carefully. His clothes may not be new. Perhaps the knees have been patched more than once. Perhaps the sleeves once belonged to an older brother. Such things are common. Many garments pass through several members of a family before they finally wear out. Children learn to care for what they have. A torn coat cannot always be replaced quickly. A lost scarf may not be easily forgotten. Possessions are treated with care because they represent effort. Someone worked to earn the money. Someone spent hours making repairs. Someone ensured the item remained useful. These lessons settle quietly into daily life. Nothing is wasted if it can still serve a purpose. Soon breakfast is ready. Steam rises from bowls. The room grows warmer as the fire strengthens. For a short while, the family gathers together. These moments are often brief but meaningful. Before everyone leaves for separate responsibilities, there is a chance to share the beginning of the day. Outside, the city slowly fills with sound. Doors open. Footsteps appear on sidewalks. Horse hooves strike wet stone. Far away, a factory whistle echoes through the morning air. The sound travels across neighborhoods and rooftops. For many workers, it serves as a signal. The day has officially begun. Children hear such sounds so often that they become part of the landscape. Like church bells. Like rainfall. Like the wind. The sounds blend into memory. Years later, adults may still remember them. Not because they were remarkable, but because they were constant. Many Victorian children lived close to their places of work or school. Long journeys were difficult. Most people traveled by foot. As a result, neighborhoods often formed tight communities. Families knew one another. Shopkeepers recognized familiar faces. Children grew up surrounded by people they encountered almost every day. The baker might greet them each morning. The grocer might know their parents by name. The blacksmith might have repaired household tools for years. These connections created a sense of belonging. Even in crowded cities, people often lived within surprisingly small social worlds. A child might spend years moving through the same streets and seeing the same faces. The familiar environment offered comfort. It provided a feeling of stability amid life's uncertainties. As the morning progresses, schools begin to fill. Children enter classrooms carrying books, slates, or writing materials. Rows of desks wait patiently. Large windows allow sunlight to spill across wooden floors. The room smells faintly of paper, chalk, and polished wood. Students settle into their places. Lessons begin. Victorian education often emphasized discipline and order. Children were expected to sit properly, to listen carefully, to complete assignments neatly. Teachers valued accuracy. Mistakes were corrected. Good work received praise. The system could be strict. Yet many children also took pride in learning. Reading opened new possibilities. Books carried readers far beyond their own neighborhoods. Stories introduced distant lands. Poetry offered beauty. History connected the present to earlier generations. For children whose daily lives remained physically demanding, learning sometimes provided a different kind of escape. A moment spent reading could transport the mind elsewhere. Even if only briefly. Libraries gradually became more common throughout the century. Books became easier to obtain. Families that owned only a few volumes often treasured them greatly. A favorite book might be read many times. Certain stories became companions throughout childhood. Pages softened from use. Covers became worn. Yet the words remained important. During evenings, children sometimes gathered around adults who read aloud. Not everyone could read fluently. Reading aloud allowed stories to be shared. The sound of a familiar voice filling a room created a comforting atmosphere. Outside, darkness pressed gently against windows. Inside, imaginations traveled far beyond the walls. Such moments offered rest from ordinary concerns. They reminded children that life contained wonder as well as responsibility. Beyond schools and homes, Victorian cities continued expanding. New buildings appeared. Railways stretched across the landscape. Stations bustled with travelers. Trains became symbols of change. To many children, railways seemed remarkable. Great iron machines crossing the countryside at speeds previous generations could hardly imagine. Some children watched trains from bridges or station platforms. They listened to whistles echoing across valleys. They watched clouds of steam drift into the sky. The railway represented movement, possibility, connection. Yet even as technology advanced, daily life for many families remained rooted in familiar routines. Laundry still needed washing. Meals still needed cooking. Floors still needed sweeping. The small responsibilities of ordinary life continued unchanged. This balance between change and tradition shaped Victorian childhood. The world was transforming. Yet everyday duties remained much the same. In factories, workshops, and homes, children continued learning patience. Consider a young apprentice working beside experienced craftsmen. Day after day he repeats similar tasks. At first progress feels slow. Skills seem difficult to master. Yet gradually improvement appears. Movements become smoother. Mistakes become less frequent. Confidence develops quietly. Victorian culture admired perseverance. Children heard stories celebrating individuals who succeeded through effort and determination. These examples reinforced lessons already present in daily experience. Improvement often required time. Progress often arrived slowly. Immediate rewards were rare. Patience became valuable. The same lesson appeared in households. A girl learning to sew may spend months practicing small stitches. At first her work appears uneven. Threads tangle. Mistakes occur. Yet with repetition, skill grows. The process teaches persistence. It teaches acceptance of gradual improvement. Such lessons extended beyond practical tasks. They shaped attitudes toward life itself. Difficult circumstances often seemed more manageable when viewed as something to endure patiently rather than resist endlessly. As afternoon sunlight spreads across streets and fields, children experience different rhythms depending upon where they live. In industrial neighborhoods, smoke drifts above rooftops. The air carries the sounds of machinery. Workers move steadily through long hours. In rural areas, fields shimmer beneath changing skies. Birds cross open spaces. Wind moves through crops. Yet despite these differences, many children share similar experiences. Responsibilities. Expectations. Family obligations. The need to contribute where possible. Childhood is not entirely free from burdens. But neither is it entirely without joy. During breaks from work or study, friendships flourish. Children exchange stories. Invent games. Share discoveries. A smooth stone found beside a river. An unusual bird spotted in a field. A funny incident observed on the street. Such conversations weave small moments of happiness into ordinary days. Human beings naturally seek connection. Friendship lightens difficult routines. A task completed alongside companions often feels easier. A long walk passes more quickly when shared with conversation. As evening approaches, shadows lengthen once more. Shops begin preparing to close. Workers anticipate the end of their shifts. Children sense the changing atmosphere. The busiest part of the day is nearly finished. Soon families will gather again. Supper waits. Warmth waits. Rest waits. The journey home often carries its own quiet satisfaction. Familiar streets appear. Familiar doorways. Familiar windows glowing softly in the fading light. Home may be modest. It may be crowded. Yet it remains a place of belonging. For many Victorian children, family represented the strongest source of security available. The outside world could be demanding. Work could be tiring. School could be strict. Weather could be unpleasant. But home offered continuity. It offered familiar faces. Familiar voices. Familiar routines. Evening meals vary from household to household. Some tables hold more food than others. Yet regardless of wealth, the shared meal remains important. It marks the transition from public responsibilities to private family life. Stories from the day are exchanged. Advice is given. News is discussed. Children listen closely. Through these conversations they learn how adults understand the world. They absorb opinions, values, expectations. Family culture passes quietly between generations. Night arrives once more. Stars appear gradually above the landscape. Lamps glow behind curtains. Fires burn steadily. The pace of life softens. Children finish final chores. Books are closed. Boots are placed neatly near doors. One by one, households prepare for sleep. The day has not been perfect. Perhaps there were disappointments, mistakes, moments of frustration. Yet those moments already begin fading into memory. Tomorrow will offer another opportunity to begin again. Victorian childhood often involved accepting this simple truth. Life contained difficulties. Yet life also continued. Morning always returned. Responsibilities returned. So did opportunities for kindness, friendship, learning, and quiet contentment. And as another peaceful night settles across towns, villages, and countryside alike, countless children drift once more toward sleep, carrying with them the steady habits and gentle endurance that shaped so much of life in the Victorian age. Outside, the wind moves softly through dark streets. Inside, fires burn low. The clocks continue ticking. And the long rhythm of Victorian childhood flows onward through another silent night. The night remains calm over Victorian Britain. A thin layer of mist settles across fields and rivers. In the cities, gas lamps cast soft circles of light upon cobblestones still damp from an earlier rain. The sounds of the day have faded almost completely now. Only a few footsteps echo through quiet streets. A carriage rolls slowly in the distance. Somewhere, a clock gently marks the passing hours. Most children are asleep. Their breathing rises and falls softly in crowded bedrooms and small cottages. The worries of the day have loosened their grip. School lessons, household chores, long hours of work, and countless responsibilities have drifted into the background. For a little while, there is only rest. Yet even as children sleep, the Victorian world continues moving around them. Far out at sea, fishing boats rise and fall upon dark water. Along railway lines, workers prepare for journeys that will begin before sunrise. In bakeries, ovens are already warming. Soon fresh bread will fill the air with its comforting scent. Morning is never very far away. Gradually the darkness begins to soften. The horizon lightens. A faint glow appears beyond rooftops and church towers. Birds awaken one by one. The first signs of a new day arrive quietly. Inside a small terraced house, a young boy hears movement downstairs. He remains still beneath the blankets for a moment. The room is cold. Outside the window, the sky is pale gray. Soon he hears familiar sounds. The scrape of a chair. The crackle of a fire being coaxed back to life. The gentle clatter of dishes. These sounds are part of the rhythm of home. They signal the beginning of another ordinary day. Victorian childhood is filled with such rhythms. Many experiences repeat so often that they become woven into memory. The same streets. The same bells. The same routines. The same faces. Children often find comfort in this predictability. Life may not always be easy, but it is familiar. and familiarity creates a sense of security. The boy dresses quickly. His clothes are simple and practical. Like many Victorian children, he owns only a small number of outfits. Each piece must last. Buttons are replaced when lost. Tears are mended. Fabric is patched and patched again. Children learn early that clothing represents effort and expense. A well-maintained coat can serve for years. Carelessness has consequences. These lessons become part of daily life. Not through lectures, but through experience. As breakfast is prepared, the family gathers around a small table. Steam rises from porridge. Tea warms chilled hands. The room feels brighter now. Outside, the street begins filling with movement. Workers pass by on their way to factories. Shopkeepers unlock doors. Market sellers arrange their goods. The city slowly stretches awake. A young girl watches through the window while eating her breakfast. She sees familiar neighbors. The milkman. The baker's assistant. Children from nearby houses heading toward school. Their routines intersect day after day. The neighborhood feels almost like an extended family. Everyone recognizes one another. Everyone understands the local rhythms. For many Victorian children, community provides an important sense of belonging. Life is rarely lived in isolation. People borrow tools. Share advice. Help during illness. Watch over each other's children. These small acts of cooperation create strong social bonds. A child growing up within such a community learns that survival often depends upon mutual support. No one faces every challenge alone. As the morning advances, schools and workplaces fill once again. In classrooms, lessons begin. Children open books and copy words carefully onto slates. The scratching sound of pencils fills the room. Sunlight streams through tall windows. Dust drifts slowly through bright beams of light. Some students enjoy arithmetic. Others prefer reading. Many simply do their best. Education continues expanding throughout the Victorian period. More children gain access to learning than previous generations. Yet school remains serious. Teachers expect attention. Discipline remains important. Mistakes are corrected. Effort is valued. Children gradually learn that improvement often comes through practice rather than talent alone. A difficult lesson mastered after many attempts can feel deeply satisfying. This understanding reinforces a larger Victorian belief. Progress requires patience. Elsewhere, apprentices continue learning trades. Inside workshops, the air may smell of wood shavings, leather, or metal. Tools hang neatly upon walls. Experienced craftsmen move with confidence built over decades. Young apprentices watch carefully. They observe every motion, every technique, every detail. At first, many tasks appear impossible. The skills seem too complex. The work too precise. Yet slowly, almost without noticing, improvement begins. A child who struggled months earlier now completes the same task with ease. Growth often happens quietly. One day at a time. Victorian children become accustomed to this gradual progress. Life itself seems to move that way. Not through sudden changes, but through countless small steps. The same principle appears in rural communities. A farm child watches crops grow through the seasons. Nothing changes quickly. Days pass. Weeks pass. The field looks nearly the same. Then suddenly, one morning, growth becomes obvious. Green shoots stretch upward. The landscape transforms. Nature teaches patience better than words ever could. Children living close to the land understand this instinctively. Some things simply require time. As afternoon arrives, the pace of the day settles into a steady rhythm. The excitement of morning has faded. The end of the day still feels distant. This is often the quietest part of daily life. The hours move slowly. Tasks continue. Concentration deepens. Outside, clouds drift lazily across the sky. Sunlight moves gradually across walls and floors. The world feels calm. In these ordinary hours, character is often formed. Not during extraordinary moments, but during routine ones. A child completes a chore despite feeling tired. Another practices writing until letters improve. Someone helps a younger sibling without being asked. These small actions rarely attract attention. Yet repeated over years, they shape habits and attitudes. Victorian society placed great importance on such qualities. Responsibility, reliability, persistence. Children absorb these values through everyday experience. As the afternoon continues, many children begin looking forward to evening. Not because work suddenly becomes easier, but because evening offers a different atmosphere. A softer atmosphere. The family will soon gather together again. The pace will slow. The pressures of the day will gradually fade. Even simple pleasures feel significant after long hours of effort. The walk home becomes part of this transition. A child leaves school carrying books beneath one arm. Another leaves a workshop with tired hands. Groups of children travel familiar routes through streets and lanes. Conversation returns. Laughter appears. Stories from the day are exchanged. The mood feels lighter. The responsibilities of tomorrow remain safely in the future. For now, the day is nearly finished. Shops glow warmly as dusk approaches. Windows reflect the fading sunlight. Church bells ring across neighborhoods. Smoke rises from hundreds of chimneys. The scents of evening meals drip through the air. Soup, bread, stew, cooking vegetables. For many children, these familiar smells signal comfort. Home is near. Inside Victorian homes, evening routines vary but often follow familiar patterns. Coats are hung near doors. Hands and faces are washed. Meals are shared. Parents discuss work. Children discuss school. News spreads through conversation. The household settles into its nightly rhythm. Some families enjoy reading together. A father may read aloud from a newspaper. A mother may tell stories remembered from her own childhood. Children listen attentively. The room glows with candlelight or lamplight. Outside, darkness slowly deepens. These evenings become treasured memories. Not because they are unusual, but because they are repeated so often. Consistency creates emotional warmth. A familiar routine performed hundreds of times becomes deeply comforting. For children living difficult lives, such moments provide stability. They remind them that no matter how challenging the day may have been, certain things remain dependable. Family, home, routine, belonging. As the evening grows later, fatigue settles across the household. Children yawn. Eyes become heavy. The warmth of the room encourages relaxation. Tomorrow's responsibilities can wait. For now, there is only the quiet preparation for sleep. Candles are extinguished one by one. Shadows lengthen. Voices soften. The house becomes still. A young girl climbs into bed beside her sister. The blankets feel warm. Outside, rain begins tapping gently against the window. She listens for a moment. The sound is soothing. Before long, sleep arrives. Across the nation, countless other children are doing the same. In busy industrial cities. In fishing villages beside the sea. In remote farmhouses surrounded by fields. In crowded neighborhoods filled with smoke and noise. Children settle into beds and prepare for another night. Each carries a different story. Different challenges. Different hopes. Yet many share the same quiet acceptance of life's difficulties. Not because hardship is easy, but because it is familiar. Because they have watched parents endure. Because they have seen neighbors persevere. Because each day teaches them, gently and repeatedly, that life often requires patience. And so the Victorian night deepens once more. The streets grow silent. The fires burn low. Clouds drift slowly across moonlit skies. Children sleep peacefully beneath warm blankets. Tomorrow will bring another dawn. Another collection of small duties. Another ordinary day. And the long, steady rhythm of Victorian childhood will continue, flowing onward through the years like a quiet river beneath the stars. The quiet river of night continues to flow across Victorian Britain. Above the rooftops, the moon drifts behind thin clouds. The streets are nearly empty now. A few lamps remain lit, glowing softly through misty air. Their reflections shimmer faintly upon wet cobblestones. The city seems to be dreaming. Rows of houses stand silent. Workshops rest in darkness. Schoolrooms wait patiently for another day. And inside countless homes, children sleep. Some sleep deeply after long hours of labor and study. Others shift beneath blankets as dreams carry them through imagined landscapes. A young boy dreams of open countryside beyond the crowded streets he knows so well. A girl dreams of stories she heard beside the fire before bed. Dreams offer small journeys beyond the limits of everyday life. They always have. Even during the busiest years of the Victorian age. The hours pass quietly. A distant bell marks the time. Wind brushes gently through narrow alleys. Rainwater trickles along stone gutters. The world feels calm. Eventually, the eastern sky begins to brighten. Morning approaches once more. At first the change is almost impossible to notice. Darkness slowly softens into shades of gray. Chimneys emerge against the horizon. Church towers become visible. Birds begin calling from rooftops and trees. Another day is arriving. In a small home near a textile mill, a mother wakes before everyone else. The room remains dim. The fire has nearly gone out. She kneels beside the hearth and carefully encourages the embers back to life. Soon faint warmth spreads through the room. The familiar process has been repeated countless times. Many Victorian mornings begin exactly this way. Children grow up watching these routines. Without realizing it, they absorb lessons about persistence. The adults around them continue their work day after day. Not because each day is exciting. Not because each day is easy. But because daily responsibilities require attention. The lesson becomes part of the child's understanding of the world. Life moves forward through ordinary effort. A young girl opens her eyes. She hears the sounds of breakfast preparations downstairs. The scent of baking bread drifts upward through the house. For a moment she remains under the blankets. The warmth feels comforting. Outside, the morning air is cool. But soon she rises. The household is already coming alive. Victorian homes often contained little unused space. Rooms served multiple purposes. Furniture needed to be practical. Every corner mattered. Children learned to live closely together. They shared rooms, shared belongings, shared responsibilities. Personal space was limited. Yet these crowded conditions often strengthened family bonds. Brothers and sisters spent much of their lives together. They worked together, walked together, played together. Their experiences became deeply connected. Many adults later remembered childhood through memories of siblings. Shared laughter, shared chores, shared challenges. These relationships helped children navigate difficult circumstances. A burden often feels lighter when carried alongside others. As sunlight spreads across the landscape, towns and villages begin moving once again. In industrial districts, factory whistles pierce the morning air. The sound echoes between brick buildings and drifting smoke. Workers emerge from homes. Boots strike pavement. Doors open and close. Streets fill with movement. Children join this daily procession. Some head toward school. Others assist with family businesses. Some continue apprenticeships. Everyone seems to have somewhere to be. Somewhere important. The Victorian world values purpose. Even young children are encouraged to contribute in meaningful ways. Responsibility is not viewed as something reserved for adulthood. Instead, responsibility arrives gradually. A little more each year. A new chore. A new task. A new expectation. Childhood unfolds alongside these growing duties. Yet children remain remarkably adaptable. Human beings possess an extraordinary ability to accept the realities surrounding them. What feels difficult to one generation may feel ordinary to another. Victorian children rarely spent time imagining completely different lives. Their focus remained close to home, close to family, close to daily experience. They understood the world through what they saw each day. This perspective made many hardships feel normal rather than unusual. As morning continues, schools begin filling with students. Coats hang from hooks. Books are arranged neatly. Teachers prepare lessons. The classroom settles into familiar order. A bell rings. Lessons begin. Reading remains an important part of education. Many children discover great pleasure in books. Stories provide opportunities to travel beyond immediate surroundings. Through reading, a child living in a crowded city can imagine distant coastlines, mountain valleys, foreign countries, ancient civilizations. The imagination quietly expands. Yet even within the classroom, Victorian values remain present. Students are encouraged to work carefully, to respect authority, to improve through effort. Progress is celebrated. Laziness is discouraged. These ideas appear repeatedly throughout society. Children hear them so often that they become part of everyday thinking. During breaks between lessons, the atmosphere changes. Voices grow louder. Friendships emerge. Children exchange stories and observations. They discuss weather, family news, neighborhood events, small concerns and small victories. These conversations reveal an important truth. No matter how serious responsibilities may become, children still find ways to connect. They still find ways to enjoy one another's company. A brief conversation with a friend can brighten an entire day. Across the countryside, farm children experience a different morning rhythm. The landscape stretches outward beneath open skies. Fields glisten with dew. Streams move quietly between grassy banks. Birds circle above hedgerows. Nature provides constant companionship. Work begins early. Animals require feeding. Fences require maintenance. Crops require attention. The responsibilities can be demanding. Yet they also create strong connections to the land. Children witness the changing seasons firsthand. They notice subtle shifts in weather. They learn which signs predict rain, which clouds suggest clear skies, which sounds indicate approaching storms. This practical knowledge accumulates slowly over years. The countryside teaches observation. It teaches patience. It teaches respect for forces beyond human control. During harvest season, communities often become especially busy. Fields fill with workers. Wagons move along country roads. Everyone contributes where possible. Children may help gather crops or perform smaller tasks alongside adults. These periods require effort. Yet they also create a sense of shared purpose. Entire communities work toward common goals. The experience strengthens social bonds. Children learn that cooperation often accomplishes more than individual effort alone. As afternoon approaches, sunlight shifts across rooftops and fields. The busiest hours of the day continue. In workshops, apprentices practice skills. In homes, chores continue. In schools, lessons proceed. Most of life unfolds through repetition. The same actions performed again and again. At first glance this repetition may seem dull. Yet repetition often creates mastery. A child who practices handwriting every day eventually writes beautifully. A young carpenter gradually develops steady hands. A seamstress learns precision through thousands of stitches. Improvement rarely appears overnight. Victorian children become familiar with this reality. Their world constantly reinforces the value of patience. Sometimes children encounter disappointment. An examination may go poorly. A task may prove difficult. A mistake may attract criticism. Such experiences are unavoidable. Yet many children learn resilience through these moments. Failure does not necessarily end the journey. Tomorrow provides another opportunity. Another attempt. Another chance to improve. Adults often encourage this mindset. Persistence matters. Effort matters. Character matters. Success grows slowly. These beliefs become deeply woven into Victorian culture. By late afternoon, shadows begin lengthening. The sunlight softens. Streets take on a golden glow. In villages, long beams of light stretch across fields. In cities, rooftops catch the final warmth of the day. Children sense evening approaching. The atmosphere gradually changes. The end of the day's work comes closer. Fatigue settles gently into muscles and minds. Yet there is comfort in this tiredness. It reflects a day completed. Responsibilities met. Duties fulfilled. The walk home feels familiar. Familiar streets. Familiar sounds. Familiar faces. Home waits at the end of the journey. And home remains deeply important. Many Victorian houses are modest. Some are crowded. Some struggle against cold winters and damp weather. Yet they remain places where families gather. Places where stories are shared. Places where children feel connected to those they love. Evening meals bring everyone together once more. Conversation fills the room. Parents discuss work. Children discuss lessons and daily events. News travels from neighbor to neighbor. The household reconnects after hours spent apart. These gatherings create stability. They provide opportunities for guidance, for encouragement, for simple companionship. Outside, darkness gradually returns. Lamps glow warmly behind windows. The sounds of the street begin fading. Shops close their doors. Workers finish their journeys home. The pace of the world slows. Children complete final chores. Perhaps water must be carried. Perhaps clothing must be folded. Perhaps younger siblings need assistance preparing for bed. Small responsibilities remain until the end of the day. Yet these tasks have become familiar. Familiarity often makes difficult things easier to bear. Soon bedtime arrives. Candles flicker softly. Shadows dance across walls. Blankets are arranged. Good nights are exchanged. One by one, children settle into bed. Their bodies feel heavy with pleasant exhaustion. Outside, the night grows deeper. The moon rises higher above rooftops and countryside alike. Another ordinary day has come to an end. It may not have contained great adventures. It may not have changed history. Yet it mattered. It was part of a larger journey. A journey shared by millions of Victorian children learning how to move through life with patience, responsibility, and quiet endurance. And as sleep slowly returns to homes across the land, the steady rhythm of Victorian childhood continues onward beneath the stars, calm and unhurried, carrying another generation gently toward tomorrow. The night stretches peacefully across the Victorian landscape. A thin veil of cloud drifts above the countryside. Moonlight falls softly upon quiet rivers, sleeping villages, and long rows of city houses. The world feels still. In distant fields, hedges cast faint shadows across the ground. Along narrow city streets, gas lamps glow with steady light. The day's noise has faded away. Only the occasional sound remains. A horse shifting in a stable. A late carriage moving through empty roads. The whisper of wind passing between chimneys. Inside homes throughout Britain, children sleep beneath blankets tucked carefully around them. Some rest in crowded rooms shared with brothers and sisters. Others sleep beneath sloping cottage roofs where rain sometimes taps gently overhead. The sleeping arrangements vary from family to family, yet the feeling of night remains much the same. The responsibilities of the day have finally been set aside. For a few precious hours, there is nothing to do. No lessons. No chores. No errands. Only rest. As the night slowly advances, fireplaces cool. The warmth of evening fades little by little. The air becomes crisp. Some children pull blankets closer without waking. Others turn quietly in their sleep. Dreams come and go like drifting clouds. Perhaps a boy dreams of standing beside a locomotive, watching steam rise into the morning sky. Perhaps a girl dreams of fields filled with wildflowers beneath bright summer sunlight. The imagination wanders freely during the sleeping hours. It travels beyond the boundaries of ordinary life. Yet morning always returns. It arrives patiently, as it has for countless generations. The first light appears along the horizon. Darkness gradually loosens its hold. Birdsong begins in gardens and hedgerows. The rooftops of towns slowly emerge from shadow. Another Victorian day is ready to begin. In a small house near the docks of a busy port city, a family starts to wake. The father rises first. His workday begins early. Soon after, the children stir. The room feels chilly. The floorboards are cool beneath bare feet. A kettle is placed above the fire. The scent of coal smoke drifts gently through the room. Morning routines rarely change. And because they rarely change, they become comforting. A child knows exactly what comes next. Wash. Dress. Eat. Prepare for the day. There is little uncertainty. The pattern repeats itself again and again. Many Victorian children found security within these routines. The world outside could sometimes feel unpredictable. Jobs might be lost. Illness might appear. Bad weather might damage crops or disrupt work. Yet the structure of daily life remained dependable. That structure provided stability. As breakfast is served, conversation remains quiet. Everyone is still waking. The sky outside grows brighter. Soon the streets will become busy. For now, there is a brief moment of calm. Steam rises from cups. The fire crackles softly. The room glows with warm morning light. These simple moments often become treasured memories later in life. Not because they seem extraordinary at the time, but because they happen so often. Comfort is frequently built from ordinary experiences repeated over many years. After breakfast, children prepare to leave home. Some gather school books. Others collect work tools. Coats are buttoned. Scarves are adjusted. Boots are checked. Then doors open and the day truly begins. The streets fill steadily. Shopkeepers sweep entrances. Delivery carts move through neighborhoods. Chimney smoke curls upward into the cool air. Children walk familiar routes beside friends and family members. Many know exactly how long the journey will take. They know which streets become crowded, which corners flood after rain, which shop windows display interesting objects. Their surroundings have become deeply familiar. Every neighborhood develops its own personality. Children absorb these details without effort. They simply become part of life. Victorian cities are places of constant movement. Markets bustle with activity. Railway stations welcome travelers from distant regions. Factory districts hum with machinery. Yet among all this activity, children continue living their own daily stories. A young messenger boy hurries through crowded streets carrying important documents. A girl helps her mother manage household tasks. An apprentice learns new techniques from an experienced craftsman. A student struggles through a difficult arithmetic lesson. None of these moments appear in history books. Yet together they form the real fabric of everyday life. Most people throughout history have lived ordinary lives. Victorian children were no exception. Their days were shaped less by famous events and more by daily routines. Weather, work, family, community. These things occupied most of their attention. As morning turns toward midday, schools become quieter. Students concentrate on lessons. Pens move across paper. Teachers explain ideas carefully. Sunlight shifts across classroom walls. Time passes steadily. Education increasingly becomes a central part of childhood during the Victorian era. For many families, learning represents opportunity. Reading and writing open doors that previous generations may never have accessed. Children understand this, even if only partially. Adults often remind them. Study now. Benefit later. The connection between effort and future reward becomes another familiar lesson. It appears repeatedly throughout Victorian life. In classrooms. In workshops. In homes. Hard work today may create a better tomorrow. This belief encourages patience. It encourages endurance. It helps explain why many children accept difficult circumstances. Challenges are often viewed as temporary steps along a larger path. During lunch breaks and brief periods of free time, children naturally return to play. Even a short pause can transform the mood of the day. Friends gather together. Conversations become animated. Games appear almost instantly. A piece of string becomes entertainment. A smooth stone becomes treasure. An open yard becomes a playground. Childhood finds room for itself whenever possible. This ability to discover joy within ordinary surroundings is remarkable. It appears across every era and every culture. Victorian children possess it as surely as children anywhere else. They laugh. They imagine. They compete. They explore. Responsibility may occupy much of their day, but childhood remains present. In rural communities, the pace continues following the rhythms of nature. Clouds drift across open skies. Livestock graze quietly. Streams move between green banks. Farm children often spend long periods outdoors. The landscape becomes deeply familiar. They know where birds build nests, where wildflowers appear during spring, which paths remain dry after heavy rain. Their understanding of the environment develops through daily experience. Nature becomes both workplace and companion. The changing seasons mark the passage of time. Summer brings warmth and long evenings. Autumn fills fields with harvest activity. Winter encourages families to gather closer together. Spring arrives with renewal and growth. Each season teaches its own lessons. Each leaves its own memories. By afternoon, fatigue begins appearing around the edges of the day. Concentration requires greater effort. Tasks feel slightly heavier. Yet work continues. Responsibilities remain. Victorian children become accustomed to moving forward despite tiredness. This does not mean they enjoy every task. It simply means they understand that certain duties must be completed. The adults around them demonstrate this every day. Parents continue working when exhausted. Farmers continue tending fields during difficult weather. Craftsmen continue practicing their trade. Children learn through observation. They see persistence modeled repeatedly. Eventually it becomes part of their own behavior. As the sun lowers toward the horizon, the atmosphere begins changing once more. The busiest hours of the day are ending. Shadows lengthen across streets and fields. Workers begin making their way home. The mood softens. Anticipation grows. Evening is approaching. There is comfort in this daily return. Home waits. Familiar voices wait. Familiar meals wait. Familiar routines wait. A child walking through a busy street may feel tired. Yet seeing the familiar doorway ahead brings reassurance. The day is almost complete. Inside homes, evening unfolds gradually. Fires are tended. Meals are prepared. Family members gather. Stories from the day are exchanged. Some children complete school assignments. Others assist with household chores. Some simply sit quietly, enjoying the warmth of the room. The atmosphere feels different from daytime. Less hurried. More reflective. Candlelight softens sharp edges. Shadows move gently across walls. Outside, darkness settles once again over towns and countryside. The stars emerge above rooftops. Their light shines upon every home, whether grand or modest. Children grow sleepy. The events of the day begin drifting into memory. Another ordinary day has passed. Another collection of lessons, responsibilities, conversations, and small joys has quietly shaped their lives. They may not notice these changes happening. Growth rarely announces itself. It unfolds slowly. One morning, one evening, 1 year at a time. And so, as Victorian Britain settles once more beneath the calm embrace of night, children close their eyes and drift toward sleep. The streets grow silent. The fires burn low. The clocks continue their steady ticking. And the long, gentle rhythm of Victorian childhood carries onward through the darkness, unhurried and enduring, beneath the watchful stars. The stars remain high above Victorian Britain. Night has settled fully now across cities, villages, fishing towns, and lonely stretches of countryside. The moon drifts quietly between slow-moving clouds. Its pale light touches rooftops, churchyards, winding roads, and silent rivers. Most of the world is asleep. Windows are dark. Factory yards stand empty. Market stalls rest beneath blankets of shadow. Even the busiest streets have become calm. Only the occasional sound disturbs the stillness. A distant dog barks. A carriage wheel turns slowly somewhere far away. A church clock gently marks the passing hour. Then silence returns. Inside thousands of homes, children sleep. Some dream deeply. Others stir briefly before settling once again beneath warm blankets. The long day has ended. For now, there are no lessons to remember. No errands to complete. No chores waiting to be finished. Only rest. And rest is valuable. Victorian children often lived busy lives. Even those who did not work for wages usually contributed to family life in meaningful ways. There was water to carry, shoes to clean, younger brothers and sisters to watch, meals to help prepare, clothing to mend. Small responsibilities filled many hours. The work was often ordinary. Yet ordinary work shapes people over time. Night offers a pause from all of it. As darkness slowly begins to fade, the world prepares for another morning. The eastern horizon grows lighter. The first birds awaken. Mist gathers in low fields and along riverbanks. The air feels fresh and cool. A new day is approaching. In a small cottage surrounded by farmland, a young boy opens his eyes. For a moment he listens. The house remains quiet. Then he hears familiar sounds. A rooster calling. A gate opening outside. Footsteps crossing the yard. The farm is already waking. Animals require attention regardless of weather or season. Cows need feeding. Chickens need care. Horses need water. The routines of rural life begin early. The boy dresses quickly. His clothing is simple and practical. The fabric has been repaired more than once. Like many Victorian families, his family values usefulness over appearance. Clothes are expected to last. Waste is avoided whenever possible. Such attitudes are learned naturally. Children observe adults repairing rather than replacing. Saving rather than spending. Maintaining rather than discarding. These habits become part of everyday thinking. Outside, the morning air feels cool against his face. The countryside stretches peacefully beneath the growing light. Fields shimmer with dew. Birds move through hedgerows. A nearby stream reflects the pale sky. The scene feels calm. Yet work has already begun. The animals are waiting. The tasks of the day are ready. Victorian farm children often developed strong connections with nature. They witnessed seasonal changes closely. They noticed the first signs of spring. The arrival of migrating birds. The changing colors of autumn leaves. The quiet stillness of winter mornings. Nature became part of daily experience rather than something distant. These observations taught patience. A child could not hurry the growth of crops. Could not stop a storm. could not force the seasons to change. The natural world moved according to its own timetable. Learning to accept this reality encouraged resilience. In cities, children experienced a different kind of morning. The first signs of activity arrived quickly. Shutters opened. Shopkeepers prepared displays. Workers filled the streets. Factory whistles echoed through neighborhoods. The air carried the familiar scent of coal smoke. Life moved at a faster pace. Yet even within busy cities, routines remained predictable. A child often followed the same route every day. The same intersections. The same storefronts. The same familiar faces. These repeated experiences created a sense of order. The city might appear enormous, but much of childhood unfolded within a relatively small area. Children knew their neighborhoods intimately. Every alley. Every shortcut. Every corner shop. The local world became a landscape of memories. As schools fill with students, lessons begin once more. Morning sunlight streams through classroom windows. Books open. Pens scratch across paper. Teachers guide students through arithmetic, reading, geography, and history. Some lessons feel fascinating. Others feel endless. Such feelings are timeless. Children in every generation experience them. Yet Victorian education often carried a seriousness that reflected broader social values. Learning was viewed as important preparation for adulthood. Knowledge could create opportunities. Discipline could create success. Children heard these ideas repeatedly. Many accepted them because they saw evidence around them. An educated clerk might enjoy greater stability than an uneducated laborer. A skilled worker might find better opportunities than someone without training. The connection between effort and advancement seemed clear. This belief encouraged perseverance. Across workshops and apprenticeships, similar lessons unfolded. A young apprentice spends hours practicing tasks that seem repetitive. At times the work feels frustrating. Progress appears slow. Yet the experienced craftsman standing nearby serves as proof that mastery is possible. Skill grows through repetition. Improvement grows through practice. Children learn that many worthwhile achievements require patience. The lesson extends far beyond work. It shapes how they understand life itself. Difficult situations become easier to endure when viewed as temporary stages rather than permanent conditions. Throughout Victorian society, patience is often admired. Not dramatic patience. Not heroic patience. Simply the quiet ability to continue. To complete the next task. To face the next day. To keep moving forward. Many children absorb this attitude naturally because they see it modeled everywhere. Parents continue despite fatigue. Teachers continue despite challenges. Workers continue despite difficult conditions. Persistence becomes normal. By midday, streets and fields are alive with activity. Markets bustle with customers. Workshops hum with labor. Schools continue their lessons. Yet even amid busy schedules, moments of beauty appear unexpectedly. A ray of sunlight breaks through clouds. A church bell rings across the town. Fresh bread cools in a bakery window. A horse pauses beside a watering trough. Children notice these things. Perhaps not every time, but often enough. Human beings naturally respond to beauty. Even brief moments can brighten an ordinary day. A child walking home may pause to watch birds gathering above rooftops. Another may notice sunlight reflecting in puddles after rain. Such observations require no money. No special preparation. They simply happen. and they make daily life richer. During the afternoon, many children continue balancing responsibilities with small moments of freedom. A brief conversation with a friend. A shared joke. A few minutes spent exploring a nearby field. These experiences help create emotional balance. Life is not entirely work. Nor is it entirely play. Most childhoods exist somewhere between the two. Victorian childhood is no exception. As evening approaches, the pace of the world begins slowing once again. The sunlight softens. Long shadows stretch across roads and gardens. Workers complete final tasks. Students close books. Shopkeepers prepare to close for the day. The familiar transition begins. Across Britain, countless families move toward evening routines. A child walks home carrying school materials beneath one arm. Another returns from helping in a family business. Someone else arrives after spending the day learning a trade. Though their experiences differ, many share the same feeling. Relief. The busiest part of the day has ended. Home is near. And home remains deeply important. For many Victorian children, home represents stability. It may be modest. It may be crowded. Yet it offers familiarity. The same table. The same chairs. The same voices. The same comforting routines. Inside these homes, evening unfolds gently. Meals are prepared. Stories are exchanged. Parents discuss work. Children discuss lessons. Younger siblings seek attention. Older siblings offer help. The household reconnects after spending the day apart. The atmosphere feels warm. Not necessarily because of wealth or luxury, but because of belonging. Belonging is powerful. It helps people endure difficult circumstances. It reminds them that they are part of something larger than themselves. As darkness settles outside, lamps glow behind curtains. Rain begins falling softly against windows. The sound creates a peaceful rhythm. Inside, children prepare for bed. Boots are removed. Clothing is folded. Blankets are arranged. The day slowly fades into memory. Tomorrow will bring new responsibilities. New lessons. New tasks. Yet tomorrow is not here yet. For now, there is only the quiet comfort of evening. One by one, children climb into bed. The room grows still. Voices fade. Eyes close. Outside, the Victorian world settles beneath another calm night. The streets become silent. The fields rest beneath moonlight. The rivers flow quietly through darkness. And as sleep gently returns to countless homes across the nation, the steady rhythm of Victorian childhood continues onward, carried by routine, family, patience, and the quiet acceptance of life's daily demands. The clocks keep ticking. The stars continue shining. And another peaceful night drifts slowly by. The night deepens once more over Victorian Britain. Above the countryside, the stars appear bright and steady. Across the cities, their light is softened by drifting smoke rising from thousands of chimneys. Rivers move quietly through darkness. Canals reflect scattered points of light from distant lamps. The world seems to breathe more slowly during these hours. The noise of carts has faded. The markets are silent. Schoolrooms stand empty. Factory machinery rests. For a little while, there is peace. Inside homes throughout the country, children sleep beneath blankets worn smooth by years of use. Some sleep in cottages surrounded by fields and hedgerows. Some sleep in narrow houses packed closely together along crowded streets. Some rest above shops where families both live and work. Others sleep in rooms overlooking busy docks where ships arrive from distant shores. Their surroundings differ greatly. Yet the rhythm of childhood remains remarkably similar. The day brings responsibilities. The evening brings rest. Morning always returns. As the hours pass, a gentle rain begins to fall. Droplets tap softly against windows. Water gathers along gutters and stone pathways. The sound is soothing. Many sleeping children never hear it. Others drift deeper into dreams accompanied by its quiet rhythm. Rain has always been a familiar companion in Britain. Victorian children grow up understanding its moods. Sometimes it arrives suddenly. Sometimes it lingers for days. It changes plans. It changes roads. It changes routines. Yet life continues. Children learn to adapt. Adaptation becomes one of the most valuable skills of all. A muddy road still must be crossed. A lesson still must be attended. A chore still must be completed. The weather influences life, but it rarely stops it entirely. Before long, the darkest part of night begins to fade. A pale glow appears beyond the horizon. Morning approaches once again. Slowly. Patiently. Without hurry. In a fishing village near the coast, a young girl wakes to the sound of distant waves. The sea has shaped life here for generations. Families depend upon it. They respect it. They understand its unpredictability. From an early age, children learn that nature possesses great power. The ocean can provide food and opportunity. It can also bring danger and uncertainty. This understanding encourages humility. Some things lie beyond human control. The girl rises and looks through the window. The sky is lightening. Fishing boats sit quietly in the harbor. Seabirds circle above the water. The air smells faintly of salt. Soon the village will awaken. The day's work will begin. Elsewhere, in a crowded industrial city, another child wakes to entirely different sounds. A cart rattles along the street. A door slams nearby. Voices drift upward from below. The city never becomes completely silent. Even at night, movement continues somewhere. Yet these sounds feel normal. They have accompanied childhood for as long as the boy can remember. People often grow comfortable with what they know best. The familiar becomes reassuring. A sound that might disturb a visitor barely attracts attention from someone who hears it every day. As families begin their morning routines, homes gradually fill with activity. Fires are lit. Breakfast is prepared. Water is heated. Children dress for school or work. The sequence unfolds almost automatically. Everyone knows what needs to be done. The routine has been practiced hundreds of times before. Victorian life often depends upon such routines. Large families require organization. Busy households require cooperation. Without structure, daily life would become far more difficult. Children learn this through experience. A forgotten task creates extra work. A missed responsibility affects others. Gradually they come to understand the importance of reliability. Being dependable becomes a valued quality. Adults appreciate it. Teachers encourage it. Employers reward it. And children slowly develop it through repetition. As the sun rises higher, the world brightens. Streets fill with movement. The smell of fresh bread drifts from bakeries. Market stalls open. Shops prepare for customers. Workers head toward factories, workshops, offices, and warehouses. Children join the flow of daily life. Some carry books beneath their arms. Others carry tools. Each follows a path shaped by family circumstances and community expectations. Victorian childhood varies greatly depending upon wealth, location, and opportunity. Yet nearly all children encounter expectations. People expect them to learn, to contribute, to improve, to grow. These expectations become part of everyday life. In classrooms, lessons continue much as they have on countless previous days. Students read passages aloud. They practice spelling. They solve arithmetic problems. Teachers move between desks offering corrections and guidance. The atmosphere is serious but familiar. Many children take pride in doing well. Praise from a teacher can brighten an entire day. A neat piece of handwriting. A correct answer. A difficult lesson finally understood. These small successes matter. They provide encouragement. They remind children that effort often produces results. Not immediately, but eventually. This lesson appears again and again throughout Victorian society. Patience and effort are closely connected. The same principle applies in workshops. A young apprentice learning carpentry may spend weeks practicing basic skills. Progress can feel frustratingly slow. Yet every attempt builds experience. Every mistake teaches something. Every successful effort increases confidence. The work itself becomes a teacher. Victorian children often learn through doing rather than simply being told. Knowledge gained through experience tends to remain. Across the countryside, farm children experience similar lessons. A field does not produce a harvest overnight. Animals require constant care. Weather influences every plan. Nature rewards patience and attention. Children observing these patterns gain a practical understanding of time. Important things often develop slowly. Growth cannot be rushed. By midday, the world feels fully awake. Sunlight spills across rooftops and fields. Shadows shorten. The busiest hours of the day unfold. Yet even during busy periods, children find opportunities to observe their surroundings. A boy notices a steam locomotive crossing a distant bridge. A girl watches clouds moving across the sky. Friends exchange stories during a brief break. Small moments interrupt routine and add color to ordinary days. These moments matter. Life is rarely composed entirely of major events. Most memories emerge from simple experiences. The smell of rain. The sound of bells. A favorite pathway. A familiar voice. Victorian children collect such memories day after day. Though they may not realize it at the time, these ordinary details become the texture of childhood itself. As afternoon arrives, tiredness begins to appear. Long hours require concentration and effort. Yet children continue. They complete assignments. Finish chores. Practice skills. Help family members. Many learn that perseverance is not always dramatic. Sometimes it simply means continuing with the next task. Then the next one. And then another. This quiet form of endurance becomes deeply familiar. Adults around them demonstrate it constantly. Parents rise early. Work long hours. Return home tired. Then repeat the process the following day. Children witness this pattern throughout their lives. They absorb its lessons naturally. Not because anyone delivers grand speeches, but because examples surround them everywhere. Eventually the afternoon begins fading toward evening. The sunlight softens. Shadows lengthen across roads and gardens. The atmosphere changes almost imperceptibly. People begin looking toward home, toward supper, toward rest. Children feel it too. The day is winding down. School books are packed away. Tools are returned to their places. Doors close. Journeys home begin. There is comfort in returning to familiar surroundings. A familiar doorway. A familiar room. A familiar table waiting for the evening meal. Home provides continuity. No matter what challenges arise during the day, certain things remain steady. This steadiness helps children feel secure. Even when circumstances are difficult. Even when money is scarce. Even when life feels demanding. The evening meal brings families together once more. Conversation fills the room. Stories are exchanged. Advice is offered. Laughter occasionally appears. The atmosphere is quieter than during the busy hours of daylight. More reflective. More relaxed. Children listen carefully. They learn much simply by hearing adults discuss daily life. Family values pass from one generation to another during such moments. Lessons about honesty, responsibility, kindness, patience. Most are taught not through formal instruction but through conversation and example. Outside, darkness gradually returns. Lamps glow in windows. Rain clouds drift across the night sky. The streets become calmer. The pace of life slows. Children prepare for bed. Some finish a final chapter of a book. Others help with last-minute household tasks. Eventually blankets are pulled close. Candles are extinguished. Voices fade. The day slips quietly into memory. Another ordinary Victorian day has come to an end. Not a day recorded in history books. Not a day remembered by the wider world. Yet for the children who lived it, the day mattered. It added another thread to the fabric of their lives. Another lesson learned. Another responsibility met. Another moment shared with family and friends. And as sleep settles gently across the land once more, the long rhythm of Victorian childhood continues beneath the stars, steady and unhurried, carrying countless young lives forward through the quiet passage of time. The night lies softly across the land. Above the great cities and the smallest villages alike, the sky stretches wide and calm. Thin clouds drift slowly past the moon. Their shadows move over rooftops, church towers, quiet rivers, and empty roads. The Victorian world is resting. The factories are silent. The schoolrooms are dark. The workshops stand empty. Even the busiest streets have surrendered to the peaceful stillness of night. Only a few sounds remain. A distant bell. The soft rustle of leaves. The quiet creak of a sign hanging above a closed shop. Inside homes across Britain, children sleep. Some dream of familiar places. A favorite path through a village. A field glowing beneath summer sunlight. A street corner where friends often gather. Others dream of distant places they have only read about in books. Faraway oceans. Snow-covered mountains. Ancient castles standing beneath unfamiliar skies. Dreams carry them wherever they wish to go. Yet outside those dreams, ordinary life waits patiently. Morning is always approaching. It arrives slowly, without hurry. The first hints of dawn begin to appear beyond the horizon. Darkness softens. Shapes emerge. The outlines of houses become visible. Trees stand quietly against the growing light. Birds begin their morning songs. A new day is beginning. In a narrow street lined with brick houses, a young boy opens his eyes. For a moment he listens to the familiar sounds of home. A floorboard creaks. A kettle rattles gently. Someone moves downstairs. The house is waking. He sits up and pulls a blanket around his shoulders. The room is cold. The window glass carries traces of moisture from the cool night air. Soon he dresses and joins the rest of the family. The routine feels familiar because it has happened countless times before. Victorian childhood is filled with such repetition. Many days follow nearly identical patterns. Yet rather than feeling empty, these routines often provide comfort. They create structure. They help children understand what is expected. The day unfolds in predictable ways. And predictability can feel reassuring. Breakfast is simple. Perhaps bread and tea. Perhaps porridge. Perhaps whatever the family can comfortably afford. The meal is not extravagant. It does not need to be. Its purpose is practical. To provide warmth. To provide strength. To prepare everyone for the hours ahead. The family gathers briefly around the table. Conversation remains quiet. Outside, the world is slowly waking. Soon each person will leave for separate responsibilities. But for now, they are together. These small gatherings may last only a few minutes. Yet they become important memories. Many children later remember not grand celebrations, but ordinary mornings. The glow of a fire. The sound of a parent's voice. The smell of breakfast cooking nearby. Such memories remain surprisingly powerful. As the sun rises higher, the streets begin filling with activity. Workers head toward factories and workshops. Shopkeepers prepare for customers. Delivery carts move through neighborhoods. Children join the flow of movement. Some walk toward school. Others assist with family businesses. Some continue apprenticeships. Everyone seems connected to the larger rhythm of the community. Victorian society places great value on participation. People are expected to contribute according to their abilities. Children learn this lesson naturally. They see it happening all around them. Every person has responsibilities. Every person plays a role. Even small contributions matter. In schools, the day begins with lessons. Rows of desks fill with students. Books open. Pens move across paper. Teachers guide discussions and assignments. The atmosphere is orderly. Children are expected to pay attention. To work carefully. To improve steadily. The expectations are clear. And because they are clear, most children understand what is required. Many aspects of Victorian life are built upon this idea. Know your duty. Do it well. Continue improving. The message appears again and again. In classrooms. In homes. In workplaces. Over time, children absorb these values almost without noticing. The lessons become part of everyday thinking. A girl practicing her handwriting learns patience. A boy struggling with arithmetic learns persistence. Another child discovers that mistakes become less frequent with practice. These are not dramatic lessons. Yet they shape character slowly. One day at a time. Outside the classroom, the wider world continues moving. Factories hum. Markets bustle. Railway stations welcome arriving passengers. The Victorian age is a time of change and growth. New inventions appear. Cities expand. Transportation improves. Yet for many ordinary children, daily life remains centered on familiar concerns. Family. Work. Education. Friendship. The larger changes taking place around them often feel distant. What matters most is today's lesson. Today's chore. Today's journey home. Human life is usually lived close to the present moment. Victorian children are no different. By midday, sunlight spreads across rooftops and fields. The morning's work continues. Concentration deepens. Time moves steadily forward. Children become accustomed to long stretches of routine activity. This ability to tolerate routine is one reason many accept difficult circumstances. Life is not expected to be constantly exciting. Instead, meaning is often found in consistency. Completing tasks. Meeting responsibilities. Helping others. Improving gradually. These things provide satisfaction. Not instant satisfaction, but a quieter, deeper kind. During breaks, childhood quickly reappears. Friends gather together. Conversations become lively. Games emerge from almost nothing. A piece of chalk. A ball. A length of rope. Simple objects become sources of entertainment. Children possess a remarkable ability to create fun from ordinary materials. This ability remains valuable in environments where resources are limited. Joy does not always require luxury. Sometimes it requires only imagination. Victorian children demonstrate this every day. Across the countryside, another child spends the afternoon helping with farm work. The landscape stretches beneath a wide sky. Clouds drift overhead. Birds call from distant hedgerows. The tasks are familiar. Animals need care. Tools need cleaning. Small repairs need attention. The work can be tiring. Yet it also provides a strong sense of purpose. Every task contributes to the household. Every effort matters. Children who grow up in such environments often understand the connection between work and survival very clearly. Food does not simply appear. Someone must grow it. Buildings do not maintain themselves. Someone must repair them. The practical realities of life remain visible. These lessons encourage appreciation. They encourage responsibility. As afternoon gradually becomes evening, shadows lengthen across the landscape. The light grows softer. The pace of the day begins slowing. People start looking toward home. The transition feels familiar. It happens every day. Yet it never loses its importance. Returning home brings relief. The demands of the day are nearly over. A child walking through familiar streets notices warm light appearing in windows. Smoke rises from chimneys. The smell of supper drifts through the air. The neighborhood feels welcoming. Comfort often comes from simple things. A familiar path. A familiar face. A familiar routine. Inside homes, evening unfolds gently. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. Parents discuss work. Children discuss school. Neighbors may stop by briefly. The atmosphere feels relaxed compared to the busy hours of daylight. For many families, these evening moments represent the heart of daily life. This is when people reconnect. This is when they listen to one another. This is when they feel most clearly that they belong. Belonging matters greatly. It helps children accept challenges. It helps them face uncertainty. It reminds them that they are part of a family, a neighborhood, and a larger community. No matter how difficult circumstances may become, they are not facing them alone. As darkness settles outside, lamps glow warmly within homes. Rain taps gently against some windows. Elsewhere, clear skies reveal countless stars. The atmosphere grows quieter. Children become sleepy. The events of the day begin fading into memory. Books are closed. Boots are removed. Blankets are prepared. One by one, households settle for the night. A young girl listens to the crackling fire as she drifts toward sleep. A boy hears distant bells through the darkness. Another child smiles briefly at a remembered conversation before closing tired eyes. Across the country, thousands of similar moments unfold. Small moments. Ordinary moments. Yet together they form the experience of childhood. Not the childhood of famous figures. Not the childhood described in grand speeches. But the childhood lived by ordinary Victorian children whose lives were shaped by routine, responsibility, family, patience, and quiet determination. The clocks continue ticking. The rivers continue flowing. The stars continue shining above rooftops and fields. And as another peaceful Victorian night settles gently over the land, childhood carries on beneath the darkness, steady as ever, moving softly toward another dawn. Another quiet night unfolds across Victorian Britain. The moon hangs above the landscape like a pale lantern. Its soft light settles upon rivers winding through valleys, upon sleeping villages gathered around church towers, and upon endless rows of brick houses stretching through the great industrial cities. Everything feels calm. The noise of the day has faded far into the distance. The clatter of wagons. The ringing of factory bells. The voices of market sellers. The footsteps of school children. All have disappeared into silence. Only the gentle sounds of night remain. A breeze moving through trees. Water flowing beneath a bridge. The occasional creak of a building settling into the cool darkness. Inside homes throughout the country, children sleep. Some are curled beneath heavy blankets. Others rest beneath quilts carefully stitched by mothers and grandmothers. A few sleep beside younger brothers or sisters. The rooms may be small. The furniture may be simple. Yet the sleeping children hardly notice such things now. The burdens of the day have been placed aside. For a few hours, there is only rest. Many Victorian children learn the value of rest precisely because their days contain so much activity. Modern people often imagine history through great events. Through kings and queens. Through wars and inventions. Yet most children experienced history in a much quieter way. Their lives were shaped by routines. The same morning fire. The same walk to school. The same evening meal. The same familiar voices. Day after day. Year after year. And within those routines, character slowly formed. As midnight passes, darkness settles more deeply across the land. A thin mist gathers over rivers and fields. In the countryside, hedgerows become soft shadows. In the cities, gas lamps glow like tiny islands of light. A policeman walks his route through quiet streets. His footsteps echo briefly and then disappear. Far above, clouds drift across the stars. Time continues its patient journey. Eventually, the eastern horizon begins to brighten. The first signs of dawn appear. At first, the change is so subtle that few would notice it. Then slowly, almost magically, darkness begins to retreat. The outlines of buildings emerge. The colors of the world return. Another day is arriving. Inside a modest house in Manchester, a young girl wakes before sunrise. The room feels cool. A faint gray light filters through the curtains. She listens for a moment. The house is still quiet. Then she hears movement downstairs. The familiar rhythm of morning is beginning. Soon the fire will be lit. Breakfast will be prepared. The family will gather briefly before the responsibilities of the day pull everyone in different directions. She climbs from bed and dresses carefully. Her clothes have been repaired many times. The fabric is no longer new. Yet it remains useful. Like many Victorian children, she has learned not to judge possessions by appearance alone. Usefulness matters. Durability matters. Taking care of what one has matters. These lessons appear constantly throughout daily life. Children absorb them naturally because they see adults living by them. As the household awakens, warmth slowly spreads through the rooms. The smell of breakfast fills the air. Outside, the street begins to stir. A milk cart rolls past. A shopkeeper opens shutters. A laborer hurries toward work. The city is waking. Soon it will become busy. For now, however, there is a brief moment of peace. The family gathers around the breakfast table. The meal is simple. Nothing extravagant. Yet it provides comfort. Warm food on a cool morning. A few quiet minutes together. The chance to begin the day in familiar company. Children often remember such moments long after larger events have faded. Because comfort rarely comes from grand occasions alone. More often, it comes from repetition. From small acts of care repeated thousands of times. A parent preparing breakfast. A sibling saving a seat at the table. A familiar voice saying good morning. These simple experiences create a feeling of belonging. As morning advances, children head toward their daily responsibilities. School doors open. Workshop fires are lit. Shops prepare for customers. The world begins moving at full speed once again. Victorian cities can feel busy and crowded. Smoke drifts above rooftops. Horse-drawn vehicles move through streets. Pedestrians fill sidewalks. Yet children quickly become accustomed to this environment. The sights and sounds become normal. Human beings are remarkably adaptable. The extraordinary often becomes ordinary when experienced every day. A child who hears factory whistles each morning rarely stops to think about them. The sound simply belongs to the landscape. The same is true of church bells. Street vendors. Market crowds. They become part of the background music of daily life. In school, lessons begin. Students open books. Teachers write upon blackboards. The familiar routine unfolds. Some children enjoy reading more than arithmetic. Others prefer geography or history. Every student has subjects that come easily and subjects that require extra effort. The challenge itself becomes an important teacher. Victorian culture often emphasizes perseverance. The belief that improvement comes through practice appears everywhere. A difficult lesson mastered after repeated attempts becomes a source of pride. Not because it was easy, but because it was difficult. Children learn that effort itself has value. This lesson remains with many of them throughout life. Meanwhile, apprentices continue their training in workshops. A young carpenter measures wood carefully. A future tailor practices stitching. A printer learns to arrange type. Progress is often slow. Mistakes are unavoidable. Yet each day brings small improvements. The process mirrors childhood itself. Growth rarely happens all at once. Instead, it arrives quietly. One lesson. One task. One experience at a time. Many Victorian children accept difficult circumstances because they are constantly witnessing gradual progress. A skill improves. A responsibility becomes easier. A challenge that once seemed overwhelming becomes manageable. Experience teaches them that things can change slowly for the better. By midday, sunlight shines through clouds and across busy streets. The city feels fully awake. Markets bustle with activity. Customers examine goods. Merchants discuss prices. Children running errands weave through the crowds. The sights are lively. Yet for those living within them, they feel ordinary. Ordinary life possesses its own quiet beauty. A baker arranging fresh loaves in a window. A flower seller carrying bright colors through gray streets. A blacksmith working beside glowing metal. These scenes repeat day after day. Children observe them so often that they become woven into memory. Years later, such images may return unexpectedly. A scent. A sound. A glimpse of sunlight on stone. Suddenly an entire childhood moment reappears. Afternoon arrives. The pace remains steady. Lessons continue. Work continues. Responsibilities continue. Fatigue appears little by little. Yet children persist. They have learned to do so. Not through extraordinary discipline, but through habit. The next task waits. Then another. Then another. One small step at a time. This simple approach helps make difficult lives manageable. A child does not focus on every responsibility at once. Instead, attention remains on what must be done next. The method is practical. It works. As the sun begins its slow descent, the atmosphere changes once again. Shadows grow longer. The light softens. People begin looking toward evening. Toward home. Toward rest. The end of the day approaches. Children leave schools and workshops. Friends walk together through familiar streets. Conversations return. Laughter appears. The mood feels lighter. Even difficult days become easier once their work is complete. A familiar doorway comes into view. A familiar window glows with warm light. Home waits. Inside, evening routines unfold gently. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. Parents discuss news and daily events. Children listen. Questions are asked. Advice is given. The household settles into a calmer rhythm. Outside, darkness gradually returns. One lamp after another appears behind curtains. The stars emerge overhead. The world slows. Children prepare for sleep. A book is placed aside. A candle is extinguished. A blanket is pulled closer. The day slips quietly into memory. It was not a famous day. It changed nothing in the wider world. Yet it mattered. Like every ordinary day, it added another small piece to the story of a child's life. And so, beneath the peaceful Victorian night, children drift once more toward sleep. The streets grow silent. The fires burn low. The clocks continue their steady ticking. And the long, gentle rhythm of Victorian childhood carries onward through the darkness, patient and enduring, beneath the quiet watch of the stars. The night settles softly over Britain once again. Across the countryside, a gentle mist drifts above meadows and narrow streams. In the cities, rows of chimneys stand quietly beneath a sky filled with scattered stars. The great machinery of the day has finally come to rest. The factories are silent. The classrooms are empty. The workshops are dark. For a few peaceful hours, the entire nation seems to exhale. Inside countless homes, children sleep. Some lie beneath blankets patched many times over. Others sleep in rooms warmed by the fading heat of a coal fire. A few are tucked beneath quilts stitched carefully by hands that spent many evenings sewing beside lamplight. The homes are different. The families are different. Yet sleep comes to all of them in much the same way. Slowly. Gently. Without hurry. Outside, the moon casts pale light across rooftops and quiet roads. A narrow canal reflects the stars. Water moves softly beneath stone bridges. The night air feels cool and still. It is easy to imagine that nothing is happening at all. Yet time never truly stops. Even now, another day is approaching. The hours pass. Clouds drift overhead. The moon slowly crosses the sky. And somewhere beyond the eastern horizon, dawn begins preparing its arrival. Before the first light appears, a baker is already awake. Inside a warm bakery, flour dust hangs faintly in the air. Dough is kneaded. Ovens are heated. The familiar work begins long before most people open their eyes. Victorian children often grow up surrounded by examples like this. Adults who work steadily. Adults who rise early. Adults who fulfill responsibilities without complaint. These examples leave deep impressions. Children learn not only from instructions but from observation. The world teaches them through daily experience. As dawn slowly arrives, the darkness fades. A pale glow spreads across fields and city streets. Birds begin their morning songs. The silhouettes of houses become clear. Another ordinary day is beginning. In a fishing town along the coast, a young boy wakes to the distant sound of gulls. Their cries drift inland from the harbor. He sits up and listens. The familiar sounds bring comfort. The sea has always been part of life here. Fishing boats. Salt air. The movement of tides. The rhythm of the ocean shapes the rhythm of the town. Children raised near the coast often develop a deep awareness of nature's patterns. The weather matters. The wind matters. The sea matters. Life depends upon understanding these things. The boy dresses and joins his family downstairs. Breakfast is already being prepared. The smell of bread fills the room. Outside, the first fishermen are heading toward the harbor. The day is underway. Elsewhere, hundreds of miles away, another child wakes in a crowded industrial district. The morning sounds are entirely different. Wheels rattling over cobblestones. Voices from the street below. Factory whistles echoing through the cool air. Yet the feeling remains surprisingly similar. The household is waking. The day is beginning. Responsibilities are waiting. Many Victorian children grow accustomed to this sense of purpose. Even from a young age, they understand that their actions matter. Helping with chores matters. Studying matters. Learning skills matters. Contributing to family life matters. These expectations are woven deeply into society. Children encounter them almost everywhere they turn. At home. At school. At church. At work. The message remains consistent. Everyone has a role. Everyone contributes. As the morning progresses, neighborhoods become busy. Shopkeepers sweep sidewalks. Merchants arrange displays. Teachers prepare classrooms. Workers move steadily through the streets. The world feels alive. Yet amid all this activity, childhood continues in its own quiet way. A group of friends walks together toward school. Their conversation drifts between lessons, games, weather, and neighborhood news. A young girl pauses to admire flowers growing beside a garden wall. A boy watches pigeons gather near a marketplace. Small moments like these appear throughout the day. Brief pauses. Simple observations. Tiny pieces of beauty hidden within routine. They help balance the demands of daily life. Victorian childhood is not entirely work and responsibility. There is curiosity too. There is imagination. There are moments of wonder. Children remain children no matter the era. Inside schoolrooms, lessons begin once again. Rows of students settle into desks. Books are opened. Pens are dipped into ink. The familiar rhythm of education continues. For some children, school represents opportunity. For others, it represents obligation. Often it is both. Reading becomes increasingly important throughout the Victorian period. Books offer access to knowledge, stories, ideas, dreams. A child reading by lamplight may travel farther through imagination than through actual journeys. The written word opens doors. Many families recognize this. They encourage learning whenever possible. Even when money is limited. Even when life feels difficult. Education offers hope. And hope can be powerful. In workshops across the country, apprentices continue learning trades. A young printer arranges type carefully. A future carpenter measures wood with growing confidence. A tailor practices neat, precise stitches. None of these skills are mastered quickly. Progress comes slowly. One day. 1 week. 1 year at a time. Children learn patience because patience is required. There is no shortcut to experience. No shortcut to mastery. The lesson extends beyond work itself. It becomes a way of understanding life. Many worthwhile things require time. Friendships, knowledge, skill, trust, character, all grow gradually. By midday, sunlight spills across the landscape. The streets are crowded. Markets are lively. The pace of the day reaches its busiest point. Yet even amid noise and movement, familiar routines continue. A shop assistant arranges goods. A teacher explains a lesson. A mother prepares food. A child completes an assignment. Thousands of ordinary actions occur simultaneously. Together they form the heartbeat of Victorian society. History often focuses on extraordinary moments. Yet ordinary moments occupy most of human life. Victorian children understand this instinctively. Their days are built from repetition. The same roads. The same responsibilities. The same familiar faces. Rather than resisting this repetition, many learn to find comfort within it. Routine provides stability. Stability provides security. Security helps people endure challenges. As afternoon arrives, sunlight softens slightly. Fatigue begins appearing at the edges of the day. A student glances toward the window. An apprentice stretches tired fingers. A child helping at home pauses briefly before continuing a task. Everyone feels the passing hours. Yet work continues. Responsibilities remain. Victorian children often accept this reality because they see adults doing exactly the same thing. Parents continue despite tiredness. Neighbors continue. Teachers continue. The example is everywhere. Persistence becomes normal. Not exceptional. Simply part of life. Eventually the afternoon begins fading into evening. The light turns golden. Long shadows stretch across streets and fields. The atmosphere changes. There is a sense of transition. The busiest hours are ending. Children begin journeys home. Friends walk together. Conversations return. The pace slows. The familiar comforts of evening draw closer. Home appears at the end of the street. Smoke rises from chimneys. Warm light glows through windows. The smell of supper drifts into the cool air. For many children, this moment brings quiet satisfaction. The day has been completed. Whatever challenges it contained are now behind them. Inside the home, evening unfolds gently. Family members gather around a table. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. Someone describes an event from school. Someone discusses work. Someone recalls a funny moment from the day. The conversation flows naturally. These moments strengthen family bonds. Children listen carefully. They learn not only from lessons and books but from the people around them. Much of life is taught through example, through observation, through daily interaction. As darkness settles outside, lamps glow warmly within. The room feels safe, comfortable, familiar. Children finish small tasks. Perhaps clothing needs folding. Perhaps a younger sibling needs help. Perhaps tomorrow's school materials must be prepared. Then gradually, one by one, the household begins preparing for sleep. Candles flicker softly. The fire burns low. Voices become quieter. The day's concerns slowly fade away. A child climbs beneath blankets. The mattress may be simple. The room may be crowded. Yet exhaustion brings comfort. The body welcomes rest. Outside, the Victorian world grows silent once more. The streets empty. The stars shine overhead. The rivers continue their quiet journeys through the darkness. And as another peaceful night settles across Britain, countless children drift into sleep, carrying with them the lessons, habits, responsibilities, hopes, and small joys gathered during another ordinary day. The clocks keep ticking. The moon continues its slow path across the sky. And the long story of Victorian childhood flows onward through the night, steady and calm, beneath the endless stars. And now, at last, the long Victorian day has grown quiet. The streets that were once filled with footsteps and wagon wheels have settled into silence. The schoolrooms are empty. The workshops are dark. The markets have long since closed. Across towns, villages, and countryside alike, lamps have been extinguished one by one. Night has taken its gentle place over the land. A cool breeze moves softly through narrow lanes and across open fields. Moonlight rests upon rooftops and church towers. Rivers continue their slow journeys through the darkness, reflecting silver fragments of the sky. Inside modest homes, children sleep. The lessons have been finished. The chores have been completed. The worries of the day have grown distant. For now, there is only rest. The Victorian children whose lives we have quietly followed were not kings or queens. They were not famous inventors or great political leaders. Most left no books behind. No monuments carry their names. Yet their lives mattered. They rose before dawn. They learned their lessons. They helped their families. They worked, studied, played, hoped, and dreamed. Day after day. Year after year. Through cold winters and warm summers. Through good harvests and difficult seasons. Through times of comfort and times of uncertainty. And somehow, often without realizing it, they learned to accept the challenges that surrounded them. Not because those challenges were easy. Not because they never felt tired. But because life continued. Because families stayed together. Because neighbors helped one another. Because tomorrow always arrived with another sunrise and another chance to begin again. The rhythm of their lives was steady. The rhythm of waking and sleeping. Of work and rest. Of responsibility and belonging. A rhythm as constant as the ticking of a clock or the turning of the seasons. Now that rhythm grows quieter. Imagine the streets resting beneath moonlight. Imagine the gentle glow of a fading fireplace. Imagine blankets pulled close against the cool night air. Imagine a child drifting peacefully into sleep, unaware that generations later someone would wonder what life once felt like in those distant Victorian years. Outside, the stars remain above the land just as they always have. The rivers still flow. The wind still moves through trees and across fields. Time continues onward. Slowly. Patiently. Without hurry. And as the night deepens, the sounds of the Victorian world fade further into the distance. The footsteps disappear. The voices soften. The lights grow dim. Until there is only the quiet comfort of darkness, the calm of a sleeping world, and the gentle feeling of history settling peacefully into silence. Rest now. The fires burn low. The streets are still. The stars watch quietly overhead. And beside the endless flow of time, everything becomes calm. Everything becomes peaceful. Everything becomes quiet. Good night.